Kristen, Kyle,
Hi.
nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Thanks for having us. Come
Welcome.
on. Just wrapping up our trip, 3 days. And the big takeaway here is I never travel any place just to see one person. So when you sales guys are out there traveling, you need to then try and find 1 or 2 or 3 other people to see. The commodity manager of Electrolux wanted me to text her. That was her preferred method of contact. She was getting 200 emails a day. She said, just text me. This was 5 years ago. I'm like, okay. Literally could get her every time.
What's up, guys? Kyle Milan here with Manufacturing Tribe TV. Today we're at MD&M Minneapolis show.
You're always going to remember that person that was different than everybody else. So let's talk standing out and being unique.
We're back with another episode. We've increased some of our production value, so hopefully you guys enjoy it. Brett's got a question. How segmented do you make the emails every 2 to 4 weeks? Are you sending to the broad group of contacts or do you customize? I think that you could do it both ways, but I think in general, everybody needs to see your content. Everybody needs to see something that you're creating and something that you can provide value to.
You can tell a story a whole lot faster in a 3-minute video than you can in a 14-page article or 10 2-page articles.
Everything's about brand awareness and content right now, and it will continue to be that. So focus on producing some sort of content, and if you're selling B2B, which I'm assuming most people here are, focus on LinkedIn.
Number one, we do not charge for this stuff. I put all of my content out there for free. Send it to somebody that you feel may get some value out of it. And also engage. If you guys have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comments. We'll get to all of the comments after the break. Those comments mean the world to us because it shows that you guys care. So don't just sit there and watch, but please engage and hit those thumbs on LinkedIn. What is up, guys? I'm Kyle Milan, and we started the show exactly on time today. So some people were complaining that, dude, you guys start a couple minutes late, but not today. We hit you with right at noon. And as people start filling in from LinkedIn and YouTube, as you guys are coming in and seeing this, please leave a comment. Let me know which platform you're on. Let me know where you're coming in from. Because today we're talking about some good stuff, talking about some technical sales stuff, talking about pipeline management. So if you're in industrial sales or in industrial marketing and you're looking for some ways to improve your pipeline management, then on this episode, I'm going to walk you through some key areas to focus on and how to make some changes. So today's Wednesday, March 16th. It's noon. As you guys know, we come live. Sorry, reading a comment from Nick. Private chat comment from Nick. We come live twice a week. Mondays is Q&A. So if you guys have questions and you want us to answer them on Mondays, then shoot an email over to askkyle@mfgtribe.com. Eventually, we're going to be adding some graphics and throwing that up on the screen so everybody can see it. So throw those comments, those questions over. We'll go through them. Let us know whether it's talking about sales, marketing, industrial, technical stuff, small business, whatever. And then on Mondays, we pick 3 of those questions, answer them, and we also take comments live on the show. Just like this show, just like all of our shows, you guys leave comments, have questions, regardless of the topic that we're covering. We go through them, and 99% of the time I answer them, unless there's something, I don't know, stupid, then maybe we don't answer it. But jumping right into it, pipeline management. This is for my industrial sales and marketing people. Marketing people may be like, I don't want to talk about pipeline management. That's not my job, right? Maybe it's not your job. You only work with a portion of it, right? Marketing people's job is to bring new people into the pipeline. But you guys need to pay attention, you marketers, because sales and marketing needs to work together, as I always say. That's the only way to really dominate and push your brand out there, get new opportunities and all that. And if marketing people understood the sales management process and the pipeline management process, then maybe they can create some things that would help improve the initial side of it. Because it's not just create something, stuff comes in, and you can say, dude, I got you guys 100 people this month or 10 people this month, new opportunities. And then the salespeople half time are like, those opportunities were garbage, 8 of them, and only 2 were good. So it's that constant communication. And so if marketers can understand what goes on in the pipeline with the technical salespeople, then it just helps everything out. So if you're a marketer, don't turn off your ears to this episode. You need to pay attention. the first area we're going to look at is your organizational tools. So one thing that I always hated when I was in your guys' shoes was, we're quoting stuff through our ERP system. So the biggest area that I was in was in plastics. We typically used IQMS. So for you plastic guys out there and girls that use IQMS, that system is dope. It runs your plant and it is insanely awesome for quoting, for doing all your quotes. It's awesome too. For management of those things, it sucked because at least 6 years ago, it sucked. And I'm sure it's not much better now, but that's not its job. And so it was always the struggle of like, I've got the stuff in my ERP system or a quoting system, whatever we use at the plant, and the opportunities are in there, but then I'm not tracking the pipeline because I can't really do anything from that system. So I've got a second or third system and I'm tracking it, and all the information was everywhere. You kind of got to succumb to that if you're dealing with something like an IQMS or a system that's running your shop, running your plant, if you're in the services side, and you're also quoting through it. You just have to be like, I'm not going to get the best system by going natively through it. So I have to have a second system. What systems, whether it's HubSpot, Pipedrive, Salesforce, whatever it is, you got to have a second system. The part that sucks about it is that you're copying information over. If you're not able to do a third-party app that integrates it with, which most of them don't integrate with the ERP systems and the shop floor software and stuff like that you guys use, then you're kind of stuck. If you guys are on the industrial product side, maybe you've got that solution where you've got a proposal software or a system to create your proposals and your pricing, and there is an integration. You guys have it a lot easier than the services side of industrial. But you got to have something. You have to be able to visually, and not using like Excel and data like that, but you got to have something visual for you to be able to look at different stages of your pipeline, keep the information organized. Again, if they don't integrate directly and you're having to type that information in, it sucks, but you got to do it. You got to keep the information up to date, because you really have to be able to visualize how many people are in the 3, 4, 5 different stages of your pipeline. And if you can't see it, and if you can't see at the bottom what the total dollar amount is in that stage of the pipeline, then how can you strategically and quickly make decisions on what you need to do with your sales process? What areas are the holdup? Where's the bottleneck? What areas you need more attention to, and what areas have the most potential revenue for you in your pipeline if you don't have some visual way to quickly look at it. I'm not talking like exporting reports. That's why I like HubSpot's way of doing it personally. HubSpot's way is using the deals category and having cards where you can just see the different stages. The nice thing about if you guys are using HubSpot is that you can just quickly grab a deal and slide it to the next stage, drag and drop, and it gets moved through. And then the total at the bottom lines up. But you got to have some sort of tool. I mean, that's basically what I'm saying here. It took me 4.5 minutes to say it, but you got to have a tool. Next thing, we're going to look at the top of the funnel. Top of the funnel, beginning of the pipeline, early stages, whatever you want to call it. That is where people lose focus and attention because they get in the weeds of the rest of the pipeline. They're like, dude, I'm so busy. I've got so much going on. Meanwhile, they're not focusing on that first step of bringing new leads and opportunities into the pipeline, into your funnel. And then before you know it, you pick your head up from the desk and you're like, all right, I'm good. I got all those proposals done. I followed up with everybody. I landed 2 customers, whatever. What else do I got to do next? And then it's crickets because you didn't focus on the initial aspect. So that's where the marketing people should come in, right? Marketing people's job is to bring new opportunities into the pipeline, but salespeople can't just rely on marketers to do it for them. A lot of you salespeople do. You're just like, well, marketing gives me the leads, and once I get the leads, then we'll move on to the next step, and I'll have some stuff to do, but they need to do their job first. That's not the way to look at it. Each person has to work on bringing their own new opportunities into it. Marketing people should be focusing on creating content, pushing out content for brand awareness, focusing on social, getting new opportunities in, getting people to raise their hand and say, yep, email marketing, advertising, whatever, bring new people in, have them fill out a form, get them into the top of the funnel. That has to be the initial main focus. Do not lose focus on that. Don't get into the weeds. You always have to have new opportunities in it. I was on a sales call with Greta this morning with a potential customer. And after that call, we looked at the deals that we have, and she needs some more stuff coming into her pipeline. So we've got stuff in works already to bring new opportunities into it. But you can't ever just stop. The top of the pipeline, as long as you're focusing on bringing strategic opportunities, you can waste time if you've got the wrong opportunities in there. But that has to be like the initial effort, and the initial blitz out there is bringing in new opportunities. Now, common issue with the top of the pipeline of the funnel is that you've got opportunities coming in, but they're not the right ones, and then you're spending too much time going through the micro next step before you get into the step of going through quoting and stuff. You got to qualify these people. What is your qualification process? What does it look like? Do you have a qualification process? Do you have key standards and guidelines at your company where you say, look, this is what I'm going for, and these are my qualification steps? And if these potential people don't meet within this category, then they're not going to be a customer. But a lot of people are like, no, I think that they could be. I think that, like, I really want to go down this path, and you're trying to put a square peg in a round hole. It's never going to work. But that usually happens when people don't have enough opportunities. So if you guys were flooded with opportunities, you had 100 opportunities in your pipeline tomorrow, you'd be a little pickier about who you talk to and who you give the most attention to and who you give the fastest response to, right? You'd be a little bit pickier. But most of you guys don't have 100 opportunities coming in tomorrow. You have 2 or 12 or maybe 20. And so you got to have that qualification process down quick and very fast and very efficient and established, because you want to take a lead, which is the first step. A lead is just a person at a company. It's just a name of a person at a company. They are not qualified. They are not a prospect. They're just a name. You got to get them to a prospect, which is the next step, by qualifying them, and do it as fast as possible. Somebody comes in as lead, pick up the phone, set up a meeting with them, whatever you need to do, and qualify them as soon as possible to know, should I move them into the next step of my pipeline or not? If they're not a good fit, kick them out of your pipeline and just say not a fit, and tag them and get them gone. But you have to do that process quickly. Now let's talk about the second major category of the pipeline, which is going to be the quoting, pricing area. And so that's where a big difference in the industrial world and manufacturing is. It's a request for quote. It's not a request for proposal. So a lot of people out there are like, oh, RFP. Nope, not industrial and manufacturing people. We always said just RFQ, and that hasn't changed. So RFQ, I've talked to so many people about this. I know so many different processes, ways of doing it. Different industries do it different ways, size of companies, things like that. And the thing is that the time that it takes from when somebody says, hey, I've got a project, I've got an opportunity for you, and I want you to provide me pricing with it, the amount of time it takes for a lot of you manufacturing industrial companies to get them to that proposal is like multiple weeks. And guys are probably listening to this right now like, dude, you don't understand. Like, we've got to get pricing from our suppliers and our vendors, and we've got to spec out this and spec out that and get engineering involved, and it takes time. I get it. I've done it for like over a decade. I was in it. I understand it takes a lot of time, but the salespeople can speed it up. There's things that you can do to increase the efficiency of how quickly something comes through. Do you really have to go through all those DFM, design for manufacturability processes, on every single quote? Possibly not. I don't know. It depends on what you're doing. But don't look at it as like 3 weeks is okay, it's standard, whatever. No, try and get it back in like 3 days or maybe a week at max, because timing is everything. And it's not bad to be the first person to get your pricing in. And when you're going through that proposal process, like when I was in plastics, I would always ask people, do you guys have a budget for this tool that you need to build? Do you have a budget for the price point on how much per part you want to pay? Because you don't want to leave money on the table, and you also don't want to be spending 3 weeks of your time like going through the process and figuring out the pricing to then be like, yep, we're $6 a part. And they're like, oh, we were looking for somebody for like $250 a part. Thank you, though. We appreciate it. And then you'll never hear from that person again. So try and get, again, a qualification process. You've qualified them as a prospect. There is a fit. They have a need or a problem that you can solve. Now you have to qualify them from a pricing standpoint. What is the price point? What budget do you have set? What are you guys looking to do? What's the timeline that you're looking to kick this project off? All those things. You have to establish that so that way you can make your quoting process and your pricing process that much faster. And maybe they're qualified to be a customer based on the initial conversation, but then you get into pricing, they are not qualified to be a customer. Do you know how many times that happens to us on our side? Industrial companies come to us and say, you guys are industrial marketing agency, right? I'm like, yep, MFG tribe, man. Nobody does it better than us. They're like, okay, here's my need. Okay, cool. We can do that. We can totally blow up your pipeline, redo your website, do all your content for you. And I'm like, what's your budget? And like, yeah, like $1,500 a month. Nope, not qualified to do business with us. Because if that's your budget and that's your mindset to get all that done and double your sales in 12 months or increase your revenue by 20% in 12 months, then, and you want to spend $1,500 a month, that's not going to happen. It's impossible. So your mindset isn't there. And if I can't convince them that they need to change their mindset and shift it, then they're not qualified to do business with us. And they don't even go to quoting. So you got to qualify that step and do not spend too much time in that pricing process. Next thing is going to be looking at the follow-up and closing phase. So these three main categories that I'm talking about, I just broke it into three. There are micro steps in between that. You guys know that, and I know that, and I've covered a couple of them here, but I'm just breaking it down a lot simpler. So the last phase is you've already sent the price, right? You sent them the quote. Now you got to go through the hard part of follow-up, which everybody hates doing because a lot of times people don't respond. And this is where stuff gets lost. And this is where, if you look at your pipeline, if you're able to look at your pipeline and say, this is where my different categories are of my pipeline stages. This is the dollar amounts at each of those categories. And obviously, if there's leads, you don't have a dollar amount for them. But there's 100 of them. You need to figure out and qualify them, get them into the next step. But you can say like, man, I've got $1.6 million or $12.6 million in the quote in the follow-up stage, closing stage. I got to focus on that, man. And this is what helps you plan out your week and plan out your day. Instead of just focusing on like, I got to get this done. I'm a task rabbit and I'm just getting all these things done. You can look at it and be like, whoa. I've got way too many dollars in this follow-up category. I need to move people either to the closing and get them as customers, move them into a nurture category after that, or just get them out and say the project, the opportunity is closed and it was lost, because I don't want to keep looking at that number. And some salespeople are like, dude, look at my number, like 15 million. I've quoted 15 million this month. Okay. But then when you break it down, it's like, well, but 8 of that million has been sitting there for like 4 months. So you got to really look at that and say, how do I move this along? Ways to follow up. You have to hit them in different areas. You can't just send them an email. You got to send them an email, give them a phone call, poke them on LinkedIn, see them at a trade show, do a cold visit and stop by. You got to follow up. You got to be persistent and consistent with it, because you want to move them to the next step. In overall pipeline management, the goal is to move somebody from the beginning to the end as fast as possible. Would you agree? I'm sure most of you would. If I told you that I could bring a lead in, it was worth $10 million and that you can close them in 2 days, you all would say, yes, I want to do that. So if that's the end goal, let's reverse engineer it backwards and be like, how do we get through each step as fast as possible, still being efficient, right? Still doing the quote accurately, still not sending people pricing and then they're like, yep, I want to do that. And then you get into it and you're like, oh my God, we forgot and we missed out all these steps because Kyle told us to do it as fast as possible. Obviously, use your own judgment on what I mean as fast as possible, but that is the end goal. And if you hurry up, get people all through the quoting phase, and then you get to the closing, you're like, all right, I got all the people down here, but you're not doing anything to move them into the next stage, then it's basically a wasted effort. Then you're just waiting for people to say yes. You have to follow up. You have to follow up as much as you can. You have to look at your day and say, if I've got, like, I did a breakdown, I think it was the beginning of the year, end of last year, end of December, where like, where should you focus your attention on a weekly basis? Breaking your day down by category and percentages of like 25% of your attention here, 30% of your attention there. Yes, that's a good rule of thumb. Go to my YouTube channel and check out that video on how sales engineers should plan their week. But it can change and shift based on what you have in your pipeline. If you're traveling a lot, obviously it's going to change and shift. If you've got $12 million of potential opportunity in your quoting stage, then you need to spend a little bit more time on quoting than you do on closing if you've only got 1 million in your closing phase. But if you've got a lot in your closing phase and you've got a lot in your quoting phase and you've got a lot in your initial phase and you're like, I just can't do all of this, then your company needs to support you by bringing in people that either do the quotes for you or by people that do the initial qualification process. But you have to go back to the company and be like, I need project engineers. I need a quoting person, a project engineer that only does quoting. I need to make sure that person's hungry and aggressive. And gets through those quickly, because that's the bottleneck right now. But you have to identify and look at your pipeline overall, figure out the bottleneck, and understand that you want to move from point A to point Z as fast as possible. And the only way to do that is to beat it up every single day and focus on getting as much as you can done in the day to move those opportunities through. So we're going to take a quick break and we'll be right back to go to the comments and answer any questions or comments that you guys have. What if they don't currently have a problem with a process or system? Will the approach still be effective? If they don't have a problem, man, you can't solve it. So if you go into a sales call and you're like, hey, I want to talk to you about X, Y, and Z. You guys have any issues with it? They're like, nope. Don't sell the unsellable. Is homepage content the most important? So that brings up a good point. What you need to look at in your Google Analytics is your top landed pages. And the top landed pages are what page do people first see? And we always look at the top 10. And so is homepage usually the first of the top 10 landed on pages? Yes, it is usually. But it typically only represents no more than 50% of the total traffic that lands on that page first. Is only about 50% go to the homepage. 30, 45 minutes a day working on building out your network. And then I would spend 30 to 45 minutes a day engaging with your network. Assuming that you have deals already in the pipeline, current customers, you have meetings during the week, stuff like that, where it's pulling out your time to where you only have a few hours left over, then that's how I'd split it. Half your time focused on building your network, the other half of the time focused on engaging. We're back. Nick says my shirt's blending in with the background. Do I look like a floating head? I should just sit like this. I need a long sleeve shirt. I'm going to sit like this. And it's just going to look like a floating head. At the new studio, those of you that weren't on live on Monday, we've got a new office in the works. Over 3,500 square feet. We're going to have a new studio, new backdrop, new everything. And we're going to take you guys along the process. So definitely subscribe to the YouTube channel. We're going to be doing some sick things. By we, I don't mean we. I mean Nick is going to be doing some sick things with video to document that process, to show a little bit of construction, some building, some phases, things like that. But for right now, we're going to go into the comments. So let's see what we got, Nick. Oh, here I'm gonna mess up the name. Andrej. I'm gonna say Andrej. What's up, man? Where are you coming in from? Apurba. Hi. What's up? Thank you for the comment. That's a sick image you have there. Thanks for your videos, Andrej says. Thanks for your videos. I'm about to start a new role as a pre-sales after 12 years as a technician in physical security industry. What do you mean by physical security industry? Do you mean like literally physical security? What does a tech do in physical security? You talking like bodyguard stuff? Like, what does a tech do? You guys like clean up the messes after those security things? Or you mean like actual equipment? But glad to see that you're getting into sales. And you know what? Because you're a tech, you've got some more technical knowledge. I was going through comments on the YouTube channel earlier today for like 20 minutes, responding to some, and there's a bunch more I have to get to. And one person's like, you have to be an engineer to be a sales engineer. And no, you don't. And that's basically what I'm going to say back in that comment is, no, you don't, because I'm not an engineer, and I was a sales engineer for a decade, and I did it well. But Andrej, if that's how you say your name, dude, that's where, like, if you understand stuff and have a mechanical aptitude or can understand technical things, you as a technician in the physical security industry, you're going to have a better chance, if you're selling something technical, to be able to break it down and relate it to the person and not always go to that, what I call the show up and throw up, where you just go to the tech side right away. So that's definitely cool. I'm pre-reading some comments here, Nick. So next comment, Jason, he technically secure. That's right, Jason Jordal. Jason and I used to work together way back in the day, Jason. What was that? That was back in like 2010 in plastics out in the country of Illinois. Jason was like a damn cowboy processing injection molding machine, still does, I believe, up in Wisconsin. Dude is a killer. and he knows how to. He's a ridiculously good process engineer. I know that. But yeah, he technically secures. Andrej, hopefully you're still around, man, because I want to know some more about that physical security industry. And Nick says that's all we got. You guys on LinkedIn, you better be giving me some thumbs over there and some likes and leave some comments before we wrap this show up. But back to my story, the new office is going to be ridiculous. And so if anybody's ever in Austin, want to stop by and visit us, you got to give me about 45 to 60 days. Cause now we're talking to the designer, we're looking at permits that we have to pull and contractors have to get signed off on stuff and design process approval and all this stuff. So it's going to be a little bit, but the new facility will be set up for success, especially from a broadcasting standpoint. So couple, I guess, last things about this pipeline management. I mean, overall, look, you gotta, the more people that are focusing on the pipeline in the different phases, and the more people that are paying attention to where the bottleneck is, that's going to be the best way to tackle what you need to do next, right? Like everybody, especially in the industrial manufacturing world, you guys get in these phases. I mean, everybody does in life, right? But you get in these phases where you're like just stuck in like, what do I have to do? I have 57 tasks to do. And I don't know what to do next. From a sales standpoint, if you're like, what should I focus on today? It could change day to day. But if you're not looking at the data and you're just like, I'm going to go through my list, I'm going to call my people, I'm going to follow up with my people. I've got these meetings. In between those meetings, I'm just going to go through my list. And you're not like, wait a minute, hold up. Let's go back 30,000 foot level and see, what should I do differently? Is this working? Is what I'm doing working? Am I moving people through the pipeline efficiently and getting them to those next stages or not? Because it's like you get stuck in the weeds. There's that phrase, like you can't see the trees for the forest or something like that. And that's exactly true. You just get stuck on it. And then it's like, usually the boss, upper management or management comes in and is like, all right, we're going to have a meeting. We're going to look at your pipeline, see how things are going through. Then you're like, oh shit. All right, I need to look at this. And then you start to have some aha moments. Nick's going to throw the last comment up there. Mark Freebury. Great work, Kyle, the MFG Tribe team. Always delivering content that is sharp and on point. Fishing is easy, but getting a bite and landing a catch requires much more intelligent approach. Solid processes are key. That's right, Mark. And I appreciate your kind words. And I think that's the first time that Mark's commented. So thank you, Mark. I appreciate that. But yeah, that's exactly right. Like fishing is easy, right? Sales is easy, but closing people, that's where the work comes in. Like getting people into the pipeline is easy. Getting the right people in is more difficult. Shooting, like having a shotgun approach is easy. Just go after everybody. I'm just going to send an email. I'm going to market to every single industry, every single group is easy. Strategically focusing on accounts or strategically focusing on specific industries is more difficult. But if it's not difficult, it's probably not going to give you the biggest reward because you're just getting like to use baseball terminology, like singles, like base hits, right? You're not getting any home runs if you're just going after everybody. I don't know how many times in plastics, like anybody that knows the plastics industry knows that inventors and probably machining and 3D printing now too, definitely. Inventors come in and they're like, oh my God, I got the greatest idea and I want to talk to you about this. And some owners of companies I work there were like, don't talk to inventors. It's a waste of time. They never have any money. And I'm sure things have changed over the last 6 years because people get seed funding and whatnot. But this other boss I had, the first boss in plastics I had in Chicago, he was like, you need to talk to everybody because you never know. You never know who is that person that's got that next idea and it turns into a $10 million project for you. So I always did talk to literally everybody that would come through. I would just be very strategic and focus my attention and my time into ones that I felt in my gut were going down the path. And I would not just sit in a meeting for an hour and a half and let somebody explain to me what it is that they're inventing and stuff like that. Because then I'm going to spend, the team's going to spend a week quoting it. And then we get it to them and they're like, oh, it's $48,000 for a tool for this? No, I don't have money for that. I'm going to go to China and get it for like $4,800 and call it a day. So you got to be diligent about it, but you have to look back and be like, where should I focus my attention this week, today, this hour, whatever? look at the overall scope. So that's going to do it for this episode, guys. As always, follow me on YouTube, turn on notifications, follow me on LinkedIn. Stay tuned for our shows twice a week, Monday and Wednesday at noon Central Standard Time. And be sure to share with anybody that you know. If you got a single piece of value out of this episode, share it with one person you know, and we will see